are we really real? Do we really exist? Do we really have real products? Yes, we do. And so we show our warehouse you could practically eat on the floor because it's spotlessly clean, it's state of the art.
Welcome to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast, hosted by Bernie Borges. This is the podcast for the modern marketer who wants to hear from their peers in the trenches and the occasional analyst or rockstar influencer, sharing strategies and tactics about what's working in modern marketing. Be sure to listen to the end of each episode for Bernie's summary and takeaways so you can plan your next move in your own modern marketing journey.
Hey there, welcome to episode 278 of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. I'm Bernie Borges, CMO of Ingresso, and your host. Hey, thanks for listening. Hey, my guest on this episode is Stephany Green. Stephany is Director of Marketing and Public Relations at WestCMR. Stephany, welcome to the Modern Marketing Engine podcast.
Thank you so much, Bernie. I'm really, really happy to be here. Very happy that you invited me.
I'm happy to have you. And, my listener oftentimes doesn't have the insights into the behind the scenes stuff, but we've been working on this for a while. So here we are. Happy that we made it. We made it here. So fantastic.
Yes.
We are here to talk about a topic that is really germane to your company, WestCMR. So we're going to get into that because you work for a very unique company, and we're going to share that with my listener. But first, I want to mention something. I want to acknowledge something, and that is, Stephany, that this episode is the first episode that I'm recording of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast since the global movement has begun, largely influenced by the death of George Floyd and the impact that that's had, what started really in the US and really now around the world.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
just wanted to acknowledge that. I just wanted to personally, speaking for myself,
hmm
just, lend my support for those who are protesting peacefully
hmm
and really support the peaceful demonstration of the need for change.
hmm
And just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I'm actually glad you did mention that, Bernie. I think it's just so important that we all support an ongoing peaceful movement. And I think it's sad that George Floyd had to die to kind of inspire this movement. But at the same time, we're all talking and seeing things in a new light to some degree. So thank you for actually bringing that up and acknowledging it. I really
Absolutely.
do support a peaceful movement in every way as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Stephany, we are here to talk about how to market to a target audience who does not recognize your company's value.
Right.
And that is really germane to your company, WestCMR. And as you know, Stephany, I always ask my guests to begin by introducing their company. And, it's funny because I usually say, hey, let's keep it brief. The listener's
Mhm.
not really here to hear all about your company. But in this case,
Right.
the entire topic is all about your company and the fact that your company is unique and isn't recognized. So give the listener an introduction and an explanation of
Mhm.
West CMR. And I know you're going to start with the why behind the company.
Mhm.
Who
Mhm.
and why?
Absolutely, the why. So WestCMR was founded in 1997 by our illustrious CEO, Randy Ware, who's still very, very involved in every way, every aspect of the company. He was pretty, genius in coming up with this business model that's incredibly unique. And we are still a leader in the space for the past 23 years. So Randy was in sales at the time, and he surgical supply sales, and he started noticing that hospitals and surgery centers had a ton of excess, and the excess was just shipped, trucked off to landfills. So he started realizing, well, how could he help them solve this problem instead of, continuing to pollute the earth by sending waste to landfills? These supplies were unused, they were unexpired, had never been touched. And so he started calling several of the reps and said, what if I gave you a solution to that? Could I take it off your hands? And they were like, yeah, I didn't know that could happen. And so what happened was he created this very unique business model to empower hospitals and surgery centers to enable them to literally capitalize on their excess. So instead of sending them off and trucking them to, landfills, he would offer to buy them from them. So, what they would have thought would be a loss, and they'd have to just write it off as, no profits whatsoever from this excess waste that had actually never been touched, never been opened, never expired. They were able to earn money by selling their supplies, their excess supplies
And
to,
you're referring to the hospital or surgery center.
yeah.
They're the ones that earn the money because they're
Hmm.
selling what they had in supply that they had
Yep.
already purchased, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And as you said, it was unexpired, so they're
Yeah.
still within their dates.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
instead of dumping them, they could actually liquidate them.
Yes, exactly. And then that's the business model he created. And at the same time, as he, acquired more and more supplies, and now we have literally hundreds of thousands in our warehouse in Clearwater, Florida. He started acquiring supplies by buying them from these hospitals. Then he was able to call the same hospital and surgery centers and say, "Hey, I've got these supplies, brand new. Are you in need of, whatever supply they might be looking for at the time?" And if he had what they were looking for, he could sell it back to them at a tremendous discount. So it's kind of like we like to call ourselves, almost like if you think of a TJ Maxx, for
Hmm.
um, in layman's terms. So it's like, why buy, designer Ralph Lauren at full price if you can get it, for a fraction of that? And or why buy a BMW at full price if you can get it at up
Hmm.
to 50% off? And so that's kind of the easiest way to explain what we do. And so that's how the business was started.
Okay.
We came up with it.
I should mention, because you and I take this for granted, but I
Uh-huh.
should mention for the listener that we've worked together in the past, so I
Hmm.
have familiarity with West CMR. So this is
Yeah.
not conversation where I'm learning about the company as we
Hmm.
speak. I'm
Hmm.
very familiar with the company. I've always been
Yeah.
fascinated by the business model. And yes, your illustrious founder and CEO, Randy
Hmm.
Ware,
Hmm.
truly was very entrepreneurial. And he was both entrepreneurial, meaning he saw a business opportunity, but also an opportunity to really make an impact,
Right.
right? Because, like you
Absolutely.
said, these hospitals were dumping this and just
Yeah.
dumping it into landfill.
That's right.
And so he really saw kind of a double opportunity, a business
Hmm.
opportunity,
Hmm.
which over 23 years he's been doing well with. We'll get more into that.
Uh-huh.
And then also the opportunity to make an impact. And I know we're going to get more into that as well.
Hmm.
So, the way that we teed up the conversation, Stephanie, is that you're marketing to a target audience that really doesn't recognize your value.
Hmm.
You want to expand on like what we mean by that? Like who is that audience and why don't they recognize the value of West CMR?
Yeah, and well, it's a unique audience because unique meaning hospitals and surgery centers, and facilities that have all this excess. There are over 5,000, approximately 5,000 hospitals and surgery centers in the United States. Although for the past 23 years we've been serving them and helping them, or helping a portion of them, we've probably reached them, every single one of them, many times, but we can't get through to everybody all the time. And so, in terms of first of all, the challenge is letting them know who we are, letting them even know that we exist. So, there is, the audience out there might not realize that hospital surgery centers, they deal with kind of large manufacturers who their reps will come and talk to them about their supplies, and then they have certain arrangements. But also the same hospitals and surgery centers and the materials managers who work for them, procurement managers who are the personas that we sell to, and people in marketing who might be listening understand, the persona or the customer job
Right.
title.
Hmm.
Um, they might not realize that there's another quote unquote outlet for them, that they have another solution, and that's what we provide. So our job is to try to let the industry know, and spread the word, and describe what we do in great detail, and also how we can help them. So sometimes that challenge is that, like I said, they might not even know that we exist in the first place, or might not even understand that we
That
carry
there's
all.
an option out there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think one of the things that's really interesting about the company West CMR is that Randy started the company in 1997, but
Mhm.
he went at it for many years on his own before he
Mhm.
actually hired employees and actually even brought you in as the
Mhm.
first ever marketing director 2 years
Mhm.
ago. So
Mhm.
why don't you kind of speak to that as we really get to like how you're marketing West CMR to this target audience that doesn't recognize the company's value?
Right. Yes. Well, so like you said, I mean, he started the company in '97, but he didn't start hiring employees until 2009. So he ran it, by himself for quite a long time first, and then hired his first employee in 2009. Now we have over about 60 employees. But about 2.5 years ago, well, I'm sure before I started, he started realizing that he needed to really get the word out there and again help the industry understand what we do and help more of people find out about WestCMR. He decided he needed somebody to start the marketing department, and so that's why I was brought on board. So there was not, we didn't have a formal marketing department, PR department, or anything like that before I started. So I was literally started to, I'm sorry, hired to, start it from the ground up. And
Hmm.
he was like, "Can you be a one woman show first for at least a year?" I'm like, I've done that in the past, but I guess I can." I mean, I was up for the challenge because I really, I really like the business model. I like the combination of everything the company's about, and so I took it on. And now 2.5 years later, we've done some pretty amazing things.
Cool.
So
Well, let's
yeah.
share some of that with my listener here. I know that as we prepared for the podcast, we've outlined 5 points to your marketing strategy. So
Mhm.
let's go through them one by one. The first one, go ahead, Stephanie. What was the first thing that you really focused on when you first came into the company in your
Well,
role?
I decided to focus on videos first because at the time they didn't have any video collateral on the websites. It was kind of I would say video slash website. Look, I'll talk about that later. But while we modernized the website a little bit more, kind of updated it somewhat in terms of polishing up the brand, part of polishing up the brand and really releasing a well crafted, round story and marketing for WestCMR was to really start by releasing videos. So as people in the audience may or may not realize that videos crawl to the top of search engines fastest.
Hmm.
And so that's why I dealt with video first. And then behind video would be images and then text. So I kind of decided to conquer. Let's just put some videos out as fast as I can. So I started in March of 2018, and by June, I think we had our first video shoot with a crew that I'd actually worked with in the past for 12 years before, off and on, and brought them in, and then by I believe around the end of July, we had our first video posted on the website, and then we started. Our YouTube channel. So the videos really focused on CEO's vision, Randy Ware's vision of WestCMR, and then talked a lot about the company itself. We interviewed some employees about the company, and
Hmm.
then did a lot of B-roll, kind of footage, just showing the warehouse, the headquarters, and then by showing the warehouse, it helps the public know. Well, for example, sometimes we'll get in maybe to some of the other misconceptions, but are we really real? Do we really exist? Do we really have real products? And
Hmm.
yes, we do. And so we showed our warehouse. You could practically eat on the floor there because it's spotlessly clean. It's state of the art, temperature control. So we showed the warehouse a lot, and different employees working there, and our shipping and everything, and the tremendous amount of literally thousands of supplies that we have available. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the warehouse. I
Hmm.
was gonna bring that up because, as you
Hmm.
know, I've been there, and you're
Yeah.
right. If my listener can just picture that, and maybe we can have a picture of that in the show notes. The
Absolutely.
warehouse is absolutely spotless.
Hmm. Hmm.
I've been there several times because you're local to me in the
Hmm.
Tampa Clearwater area,
Hmm.
and it is spotless, and it's absolutely. You're very wise as a marketer to show that off because it
Yeah.
really legitimizes the business along with the people too, the whole people
Hmm.
factor.
Hmm. That's
Now,
right.
didn't you also take these videos and repurpose them into like commercials and other like marketing assets to create as much awareness as you could around those assets?
Yes, we did. We did. So that was actually the next tier, kind of underneath the whole video campaign effort, was to then repurpose them. So, some of our main of one of them is called the WestCMR story, and that's where Randy talks a lot about the story of the company and how he founded it, and his ideas and where the company's gone since and where we're going to go next. And then we took the same video and then other footage that we shot and then repurposed that and kind of re-edited them into smaller ones. So we have a little bit larger story. Another one is um, maybe 30 seconds long, and that's been repurposed as a commercial. So we have
Hmm.
cable TV commercials as well, and then other ones that run on what's called SEM, social engine marketing. So for social media, we run the 30-second commercials, and those are ones that are quick. People can watch them on social media easily, or when they Google the company and so forth. So yeah, we did a variety of different
Okay.
types of videos, and yeah, we've even done some for human resources, our employees, and for recruiting and stuff. So
Right.
we'll tell the story too.
Right. One of the things you mentioned that I want to come back to, because I want to make sure we don't skip over it, is the use of images. So you said video
Hmm.
and then images, and I don't want to miss out on that opportunity because,
Hmm.
again, in the business that West CMR is in, and creating that awareness for the target persona who may not even know you exist and understand the
Right.
value, images are also an important part of your marketing asset, not just the video. Video is awesome, of course, but
Hmm.
still images as well, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, very very important. Because images we can use those in other ways. Like we posted our images throughout advertorials, which we'll probably discuss here too. Because I've placed a lot of ads in industry publications, and of course those need to be flat still images. And so we have some pretty amazing shots of the warehouse, and I hired a photographer who literally specializes in product shots and
Hmm.
still life type shots and catalog. So it wasn't easy to find somebody who literally was an expert at that, and so I would highly recommend him. I don't know if you want me to say names or whatever, but we can give that maybe a link in your um,
Sure.
somewhere else.
And I think because I have some intimate knowledge of the company, I
Yeah.
think one point that I'll bring out, Stephanie, is that the products that you sell, these surgical supplies,
Hmm.
what's important to your buyer, from my recollection, is that they're legitimate products from the real manufacturer. They're not
Yeah.
some, copy, right? They're
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
the real manufacturer. And the date, the expiration date is on display, meaning it's
Mhm.
in date, it's not expired.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's actually, of course, more important than almost anything, the in date piece, because hospitals have to know, and surgery centers and surgeons, and they have to know that they're buying the real deal, because
Mhm.
unfortunately there is a black market out there that we do not participate in any shape or form. So we have to be able to show that these are legitimate products, and that's what the warehouse photos are so great for, and our videos. And then even on our website, we have, literally pictures of the real box that people will be able to
Right,
see, and they can even zoom in and see the
right.
expiration, that they're in date. And that's all also, we have a very elaborate inventory system that is run by our operations department and operations director, Elvis Merzick. And so they're on top of it. Like his department is phenomenal at keeping up with making sure that it's easy to see that things are in date.
Yep, yep. Let's talk about the events part of your strategy, and of
Mhm.
course, pre-COVID, right? But
Right,
talk,
right,
talk
right.
about what you were doing and what
Mhm.
you're doing now as it relates to events.
Well, prior to COVID-19, when I first started, teams at WestCMR, our sales team, our sales global sales director, Sandy Carvalho, and her team, they would travel to, I think, maybe 2 to 3 trade shows a year, and maybe exhibit out of those, maybe exhibit at 2 out of the 3 or so. And so we decided kind of jointly, because I work very closely with her and with her team, and with Randy, of course, in our operations department, pretty much everybody. I overlap a lot. But we decided let's double it up, and we increased our budget and kind of realigned things so that we could afford to go to more shows and also exhibit at more shows. So that helped increase our footprint tremendously. So we kind of scoured the market and decided, okay, what are the top shows we really need to be at, and which ones should we really exhibit at? And then prior to that, they had actually never sponsored any shows either. So we couldn't necessarily afford to be the main platinum sponsors in some ways, but we could do smaller things.
Mhm.
And then some of the more innovative stuff we were able to do were, for example, one of the shows, I won't name, which one, but I started talking to them about, well, can we maybe display our ads in the convention center on the monitors? And they were like, we've never had anybody ask about that before. So that was kind of cool because they were able to, collaborate with us to show directors themselves. And, I kind of created a new level of sponsorship. And then that actually made it affordable for us because it's
Yeah.
something that we hadn't even created before. So in that case, like we did convention center and then hotel lobby monitors. So the same hotels that the convention that was like the convention the events convention centers partner hotels. Our ads were displayed in the monitor on their monitors and looping
Mhm.
all day throughout the shows. Also, in the convention center themselves, the like if you enter a convention center, you see these huge columns that you might walk by. We were able to sponsor, quote unquote, sponsor the columns so that our ad was actually on boards kind of surrounding the columns, and we created kind of like a life size feeling so that the photos are actually pretty cool. They look like we stage models where they're in our warehouse, and actually some of our employees too. They're in our warehouse, and we blew the photos up to be life size, and then wrap them around the columns. So when you're walking by the
Mm.
columns, it's kind of neat. You think you're looking at people, in our warehouse, and then
Mhm.
of course we had our booth number, and then it creates a great conversation. People see it, and the sales rep said they really those were specifically a hit because people were like, "Oh, there's your booth. Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool." You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that one. When you mentioned that, in preparation for the podcast, and you mentioned what you were doing with the warehouse.
Hmm.
That is so innovative, Stephanie. I love that idea, and I hope the listener can take something away and maybe apply it somehow in their world.
Thank you.
Very innovative. What about virtual events? Is that hard to do in your industry right now?
Yeah, I mean, with some of the same big trade shows that we were exhibiting at, now, they've every single one of them, unfortunately, has been canceled. I think one has rescheduled itself for next year to 2021. But in each case, we work closely with them, and then they've also told us that they decided to kind of change their models to more of a virtual model. So, for example, they're setting up things like virtual matchmaking where in those cases, they would fill out, I guess we would fill out kind of a certain survey of what the types of um, companies we'd like to talk to, who we want to meet, who we would have met at the show, and vice versa. But in our case, we decided those are not optimal for us, and so our teams, they really believe we already have some very very strong and ongoing relationships with hundreds of our clients, so it's not as beneficial for us right now to do that,
Mhm.
especially for the expense. So
Yeah.
we do really great with like in person and then developing those relationships. So we're just going to continue with the relationships we already have and then increase those more. And then that can actually maybe move us to our digital marketing and email.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I know that that's a big part of it. Why don't we cover that fairly quickly? I want to get to the fifth and final one, reward
Mhm.
our listener, because that's the icing on the cake. That's what
Right.
brings your strategy all together. So go ahead and just cover the highlights of your digital marketing strategy.
Right. So, in terms of digital marketing, there's so many ways to do it. But for us, we emphasize email a lot and e-blasts. And since we already have such strong relationships with, customers who know who we are and know what we do, and those same customers would have probably been at the trade shows we would have been exhibiting at. And then, of course, there's new ones we want to reach. we have a kind of a two-tiered type of email campaign program. One is that our in-house reps, they have a certain type of email that they send out, and they customize it all the time according to what they're offering, or maybe we've got a special sale going on, or we have some new equipment that was recently acquired. They have some unique stuff that they've got they want to sell, or offers to buy as well. So our in-house team, they'll send their own types of emails, and then I collaborate with them a little bit on maybe how to shape those. But we also partner with a different company where they're a vendor that has a double opt-in list that have already been kind of really scoured, and we make sure it's a tight list. And those are the same materials managers, procurement
Hmm.
department directors, and then we send e-blasts out to them as well. So we're kind of, and that's how we reach a lot of new people at the same
Sure.
time. So that's our email marketing, and then the animated, so videos. So the videos we talked about earlier.
Right.
Now we're kind of in a new stage of video where we're starting to develop animated videos, and so
Nice.
yeah, so those are really fun. One of them is again, it's a 30-second commercial, and you will just see text rolling, kind of moving in the commercial itself. It's more text, motion graphics, and so you could be at work and see it pop up, and then read it and see it, and it's got a music background, a little bit of
Hmm.
soundtrack, but it still tells you the story of WestCMR in 30 seconds. And then
Hmm.
we've also had them appear on TV, which we can, talk about in a minute if you want. But those have appeared on cable TV at certain times, especially sports events, news events, to reach like a C-suite level and kind of promote the company. And then Google Ads. So we place Google Ads. We also do Google AdWords, display ads on Google, and then we are very heavily involved with industry association ads. We found them to be very successful. So, for example, like there's one called Quad SF. It's really a really long title. It's like Association of blah blah blah. It's very long,
Hmm.
but that's one among many that we also make sure to promote.
So you're
Um,
really leveraging all the digital assets that you evolved in your development over the last 2.5 years,
mhm.
and then really spreading across what we at Vingresso, we use the term omni-channel,
Right.
right?
Mhm,
Using
mhm,
multiple channels to reach your
mhm,
target audience of these
mhm.
material managers at hospitals and surgical supplies or surgery
Right,
centers rather. So,
exactly.
okay, let's get to the what I think is the best. So,
Mhm,
really, are going to reward our listener here who is out on a walk or whatever they're doing because they're
mhm.
not commuting right now.
Right.
This is, in my view, the icing on the cake. I think everything we've discussed up until this point, Stephanie, you bring it all together with this last piece. So
Mhm,
it's not, this is not in addition to,
right.
this is integrated into everything we've discussed before. But hey, it's your story, not mine. So go ahead and talk about that last piece. And please bring in the philanthropic part of it as well, because they
Mhm.
fit together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I think I would say within maybe I guess the first 3 to 4 months of my be and starting at WestCMR, of course, when you start anything, you want to learn as much about the company as possible. I did my diligence and researched them a lot even before I started. But then once I was there, worked, tirelessly with our teams to really understand the company and what we do. And then started realizing that, okay, what's the best way to spread the word to get the most out of it and the most coverage possible to get more people to listen. Because some of our first ads were, all about, only about, we can save you money
Save
and,
money, save money, save money.
discounts
Yep.
and all that kind of stuff. Everybody's doing that. And so what could make us different and what could also get us more earned coverage, meaning free, quotes in
Hmm.
industry publications and by the media. So I started realizing, our sustainability message is so important. It's a global message. It's not just,
Hmm.
US based. We literally help make the world a better place. And, we help save the planet. We are very green. We have a sustainability message. We help facilities liquidate their inventory instead of discarding it to landfills, and they save money. So the wider appeal of WestCMR's sustainability story is really what enables us to reach a much, much wider audience. And then that audience might not be the literally the, niche listener like the materials manager, but we don't know. It could be. It could be their cousin, their wife, their brother, their
Hmm.
family
Yep,
member, and of course the CEO we really want to reach, because the CEOs and presidents of hospitals didn't necessarily know we exist either to help them save all this money.
that's right.
Um,
That's right.
so
Now,
this
don't you have a slogan? Don't you have a slogan that's tied to that?
Yeah, yeah, basically turning surgical supply waste into green profits. So, yeah, that's our slogan, and then that's actually been featured. So we were featured in and interviewed by Hospital Purchasing News and other publications. Um, as you know, we started gaining more and more attention by the media. We received more free earned media that way, and this wide messaging has really done amazing things for us. So part of this whole story too is our zero landfill mission. So I work again closely with
I want to make sure that we've enunciated that because I had
yes.
trouble with that. You said zero landfill mission, right?
Yes, zero landfill
Okay.
mission. So zero landfill meaning, we want to do our best to hopefully not fill any landfills at all. And
Yeah.
so we embarked on this mission in late 2018, and kind of decided as a company, had some meetings and said, look, you know, I think this sustainability messaging is so important, and I think it more than it's almost like when you're too close to something, people didn't necessarily realize, wow, we really do this amazing sustainable thing.
Mhm.
And in terms of philanthropic efforts, one of Randy's sayings is everybody leaves a footprint, and his goal is to leave a positive footprint. So leaving a positive footprint everywhere. So instead of polluting the earth with a negative footprint, we can empower the earth, empower hospitals, empower the world and people in general by our zero landfill mission with their sustainability mission. So that's where we decided in 2018, let's work hard to reach that. So by the end of 2019, we'd actually met our goal of becoming a zero landfill company. And so with that, we recycled over 25 tons of surgical supply waste that year that would have gone to landfills. We've either sold it, bought it and sold it, and then helped other hospitals and surgery centers kind of recoup funds and also keep these supplies in hospitals and surgery centers, or whatever we cannot sell or buy, and when they do expire, we've also recycled them. So we
That's impressive,
thank
Stephanie. That's
you. Yeah.
very, very impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, I do want to comment on the tagline or the slogan, turning surgical supply waste into green profits. Brilliant. Of
Hmm.
course, ties directly into your name, Stephanie Green. So
I didn't do that on
coincidence or
purpose at
not,
all.
I don't know, but I love it. I love it.
This is meant to be.
Stephanie, one final point before I segue to my brief summary here.
Hmm.
Comment on some of the philanthropic activities. There are many, so I will ask you to keep it brief because we are a little over on time. But I want to make sure we cover that. It is an important part of who West CMR is as a
Hmm.
company.
Yes, absolutely. WestCMR is all about philanthropic efforts and helping the community. So we contribute heavily to local community organizations and national organizations. So Randy Ware, our CEO, has been on the board of the Children's Dream Fund for many, many years. So we contribute to the Children's Dream Fund. One of the national organizations we contribute to is also the Salvation Army, and then Habitat for Humanity, an international global organization.
Mhm.
Randy actually took two employees to Cambodia in late 2019 to volunteer to literally build homes in Cambodia. So it was pretty amazing what they did over there. And and then just overall, the company itself We have what's called VTO days. We get 2 volunteer time off days a year, every employee. And then we actually go to charities of our choice, and we spend 2 days with them and volunteer with them, and that's part of
Hmm.
the company's business model. So yeah, we've given to date, just I think it's almost $1 million to charity, in terms of donations and then support and volunteer hours.
It's really, really impressive. And since I do know the illustrious Randy Ware, I know it's just
Mhm.
from his heart,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
really terrific.
yeah.
So I mentioned that we are a little over on what normally is about a 30-minute episode. I know we're
Mhm,
past that, so I'm going to do a very, very quick recap. And then if there's anything you think I missed or you want to add something, please add it
mhm.
briefly. And then we'll ask you for your digital contact information and wrap up the episode, Stephanie.
Sure.
We were here to discuss how to market to a target audience that doesn't recognize your value. And that's really your company, WestCMR, was founded by Randy Ware in 1997 because Randy recognized that hospitals essentially were throwing out unexpired surgical supplies and it was filling landfills. So he recognized both the business opportunity and the opportunity to contribute to the world. So he started the company and worked it from his kitchen table or whatever up until about 2009 when he started hiring employees. And the company is selling into hospitals and surgery centers, typically materials managers and procurement managers at hospitals. And while the company was doing some marketing, they didn't really get too serious about it until they brought you on board, a powerhouse marketer, in middle of 2018.
Mhm,
And you started your strategy by focusing on video to tell a story of video, 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 emphasis on the warehouse and the product and the cleanliness of the warehouse and
mm,
also the skills of the staff. And then, of course, you repurposed that video in many, many different ways, including into smaller stories and using it in commercials, that kind of thing. And then you also repurposed and created lots of images to fit into your
mhm,
telling the story. You talked about the trade show strategy, kind of pre-COVID, and I love the innovative example you shared about how you are able to emulate the warehouse and really kind of bring people into the warehouse right there in the trade show. That's fantastic.
mm,
You talked a little bit about your digital marketing without giving too much detail, but basically just really using all the assets that you have been producing to use email, to use ads and industry association advertising as well, and then also um, the animated videos. I love that, how you're telling
mm.
stories in 30-second commercials. And
Thank
then we closed it up by really kind of the icing on the cake, as I said, and really rewarding the listener who stayed with us. And that is that you bring it all together with your message of turning surgical supply waste into green profits. The fact that it's a sustainability message, it isn't just a US thing, it's a global thing. Everybody cares about it, and how you really focused on achieving what you've achieved, the milestone of being a zero landfill mission company. You said you met that goal in 2019. You said that you recycled 25 tons of surgical supply waste
you.
that would have gone to landfills. That's so impressive. The company's very, very focused on not only driving the business, but also supporting charities.
Mhm.
And so you mentioned some charities that you support, like the Children's Dream Fund, which I know is near and dear to Randy's heart,
Yeah.
also the Salvation Army, Habitat for Humanity. And then I love your last point on you get 2 days a year to go volunteer someplace.
Mhm.
That is just so powerful. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to leave my summary there. Is there anything, Stephanie, that you would like to add?
That's a fabulous summary. Thank you. Um, I think you actually hit on pretty much everything. I think maybe only maybe two quick things that I'd love to add. So in terms of the videos, we air them in flight on American Airlines, and
Okay.
between that and then our other coverage, and I'm sure it's tons of the other stuff. Producers from a TV show called Behind the Scenes with Lawrence Fishburne. Everybody might know him from The Matrix and from a million other movies, and I believe he's an Oscar winner as well. The producers heard about WestCMR's sustainable message, and so now we're going to be featured on that TV show. It'll start airing around the country this summer, starting on PBS and then MSNBC and other partner networks. So we're pretty excited about that, and more and more people are going to find out about what WestCMR is all about. So this has
That's
been
fantastic.
wonderful.
That
Yeah.
is fantastic. Well, I can easily continue this conversation, but we're going to wrap it there, Stephany. But before we do, where would you like to send my listener to connect with you online and just learn more
Mhm.
about what you've got going on in West CMR?
Yeah, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. So it's LinkedIn, /IN/ Stephany Green. And my name is spelled Stephany. And then green, like the color with an E at the end.
With an
GREE.
E at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Stephany, my listener knows that they don't have to worry about the spelling because we're going to link that up in our show notes page.
Right.
And that, of course, is at vengresso.com. And I like to
Mhm.
remind people, Stephany, Vengresso with one S. People like to put two S's in the
Oh,
name.
that's right. Yes.
Yep. So, Stephany, thank you so much for joining me here today and sharing the West CMR story. Love what you're doing. Keep up the great work. Give my regards to my friends at West CMR.
Thank you.
And just thank you for joining me on this episode of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Hey, that's a wrap for this episode of the Modern Marketing Engine podcast. If you're not subscribed yet, I invite you to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast player. We're available on all the popular podcast listening channels. And hey, I'd love it if you would give the Modern Marketing Engine podcast a rating or review in Apple Podcasts. That really helps others to discover it. We publish a show notes page for every episode with links to the resources that were mentioned during the interview. Just visit our podcast page at vengresso.com, and that's VENGRESO. And remember, just one S in Vengresso. Hey, while you're there, sign up to get the podcast delivered to your inbox each week. And be sure to check out the Modern Selling Podcast, hosted by our CEO, Mario Martinez Jr. Hey, I hope that you'll tune in again next week for another inspiring interview to help you thrive on your modern marketing journey.